Hi everyone, Lady Steam here. In this video I'm going to walk you through the process of making this really cool Geneva pendant that was part of is part of our July 2018 box of making. You'll see as you spin this center gear that the gears on the outside spin. Geneva gears are really cool because only one of them move at a time when you run your Geneva gears set correctly. So I'm going to walk you through how to make this. What you need to do to decorate it, and we'll get you a really cool pendant that you can either wear as a pendant or you could convert and make it a pin and do something different with it if you wanted to. So hang on one second, we'll open the package. You're looking for the package in your box labeled Geneva Pendant, and we'll talk about what you need to do to assemble it. Okay, so what we're going to do first is take a quick look at this pendant. A little closer up, you'll notice we've got a gear on top. You can see all of the inner workings of it through that top gear. And then that top gear is driving your Geneva gears, which are only going to turn one at a time. So we're going to open up the package. We'll look at the parts and pieces, figure out what you need to decorate and prepare, what kinds of things you need to do to get this ready to make. So first we'll open the package, as we always do. And in your package, you're going to have a couple of different things. You'll have a bag with a little silver ball chain. That'll give you a chain to wear it as a pendant. Of course, you can always use whatever pendant you want. We've got a bag with the hardware in it. So you're going to want to make sure you put that aside. You don't want to open that yet, or you risk losing something. And then we have a series of pieces. The base of your pendant is going to be this with the Steamy Tech words on it, so those will be at the back. Then we're going to have this little ring that sits on top of that like this. So you're going to want to make sure that you color the back and the front. We're going to put this ring on top of that. So you're not going to see very much of this ring, but you might want to make sure it's at least dark so you're not seeing bare wood through it as you do that. You also probably want to make sure you sand this surface so things are nice and smooth. And probably that inner ring surface anyway, and the back of this ring. So this will all spin smoothly against each other. Then what we've got are two more big pieces. This is going to go on top, and you can see that that is going to be the piece that anchors our gears and our backing together. And this gear is going to go on top. Obviously, it's what you're going to want to make the prettiest. It's what you're going to show off the most. So then I'm going to open your other bag. And it has some little pieces in it. Be careful not to lose them. First and foremost, it has your 3 Geneva gears. They call them Genevas because if you used, I think they call them Genevas because if you make them in 4s, they look very much like a Swiss flag. They also use them in clock and timing movements, so it might be because they used them in Swiss watches that they became Geneva gears. And then you'll have 3 more pieces. These 2 pieces are going to stack on top of this little moon-shaped piece when we put it together. And we'll use the screws to get it all lined up so you're not worrying about messing it up. And then those pieces, yeah, like that. Screws are good. We'll put the Genevas on top of that to make sure that all stays together. And then this was going to go on top of that and allow us to put our big gear on top. So as you can see, you're going to be able to see all of those pieces and parts. So first and foremost, have fun decorating and preparing the pieces. The Genevas will rub, so you'll want to make sure you sand on them as well. And this is actually just a decorative piece along with this. You'll get a little bit of rubbing on this, but this is a soft enough piece, and we're going to use spacing in by how we screw it together. So you probably don't want to sand on the back of that very much, if at all. And so now you're ready to go get your pieces all set and then come back and watch the rest of the video and we'll show you how to put it together. Alright, now that you've got all your pieces and parts decorated, we're going to be ready to open the hardware bag and to start putting this piece together. So let's start by opening this bag and we'll take a quick look at the hardware that's inside it. What you should find is one little 3/8 inch screw, 1 3/4 screw. This is the long one that's going to go all the way from the front to the back, and then 3 5/8 screws that we're going to use to anchor our Geneva gears into place. So as we get this ready to put together, the first thing we want to do is glue these two pieces together. Now I intentionally made the holes in them really small so that we're sure that we've got really good alignment. So make sure you've got your screwdriver. We're going to do a little bit with our screwdriver first, and start on the bottom of this, and you're going to put your 3 5/8 screws in, and you want to screw them in enough so that they're sticking out, and so we can make sure we've got good alignment when we put this together. You can use a screwdriver, or you can just use your hands to get them to come through. And notice I can now set this on top nice and neatly and get it lined up perfectly. So I'm going to pop that off. And we're going to start by gluing this piece together. Make sure you put your glue on the outside edges here so you don't have glue bleed onto your inner edge. That's certainly not what you want. And we'll put this little bit of glue together and glue this piece on. Make sure that ring is stuck on good and tight, and those pieces are nice and together. Once you're sure that's good, you can twist these screws out, but make sure it stays together and isn't going to slide any, because if it slides, you're going to have a really hard time getting it together. All right, so that's step 1. Step 2 is we're going to put this layer together. And we've got a couple of different things to do here. We're going to start by making this 3/8 screw go up from the bottom of this hole. Now we're going to have to put some glue in it to make that work, so I'm just going to put a little bit of glue around the outside here. And I'm going to stick my screw in, and I'm going to run it up through the outside. My screwdriver, make sure that gets in nice and tight. I'm going to use my cloth to wipe up any extra glue. Make sure that stays nicely glued into place and all is well with the world. Now that I've got that glued, wipe the extra glue off your threads. It doesn't matter, we're not going to thread anything else into this, so you're fine with that way. Just make sure it stays nice and tight. Now I'm going to take my longer screw, and this one actually goes in nice and loose, and we're going to get the rest of our stack of pieces built. So we're going to put a little bit of glue on the moon. It's not quite a crescent moon. New moon, maybe? I don't know. And we're going to make sure we get it lined up nicely with that circle. But using the screw to align it is the important piece in this step. And then we're going to do that one more time. Make sure that goes in nicely. And get those layers together. And all nice and glued in. And I'm going to leave the top circle off for right now. We'll add that when we go to put this whole thing together. So now we've got our back, and we've got our piece that's going to spin and allow our gears to go into it. So the next thing we want to do is we need to add our gears, and you'll see how the easiest way to align them is to put one of the gears in such that it aligns across the back of the crescent moon here. And I also am going to use this decorative top piece to hold this together. So I'm going to grab one of my 5/8 screws, and I made this a nice tight fit for you. So you're going to line it up and screw it in. Get it to the point that it goes through, just about to the point you're ready to get it through the gear and the backing. I'm going to put it through the gear, set it down on here so that we can line it up with a hole, find a hole, and start putting it through the backing as well. By using the thread, by making the screw hole small enough and threading it, we can make sure this gear has a nice loose place to sit in when we put it together. Now that that's together, a problem with Geneva gears, or the challenge with Geneva gears, is they only spin from the middle. So I can spin this by switching this around, and you'll see that it actually spins and is moving nice and loosely. So we're in good shape, but we'll adjust it one more time when we're done. So now my crescent moon is facing this next hole. We can start our next little 5/8 inch screw through. And I'm going to put a gear behind it just to give it a little bit of support. As we run this through the backing and the gear. Make sure everything is lined up nice and neat. Throw enough through now, not quite. A couple more twists here. And now I'm starting to thread into the wood behind me, but I'm feeling like that's going to be a little bit tight. We'll give it a try, and if we need to pull it back out and loosen it, we can. So there we go. We spin this back around this way and bring it through here. Yeah, that gear's moving nice and easily, so we should be in good shape. So now we'll move our crescent moon back around facing the back and the last gear that we want to put in here, and we're going to repeat that process one more time. Put a little bit of screw in here, ever so carefully so as to not break this top piece. Now that I'm coming through, we want to make sure we get the gear in, since we don't want to have to pull back too far on that piece. Make sure that's lined up with the hole and threading through the hole. And we know we're going to be lined up on this one with the backing because we know we're lined up on the front. So we can go through and tighten, put this in the rest of the way. There's a secret here that you can see. I've got a little bit of thread space clear on my head, between my head and the wood, so we know we've got a little bit of looseness to play with as we move this around. And now we make sure this guy will spin, and this other guy will spin, and this third one is going to be a little tighter, I think. Let's see. Nope, that's fine. So I'm going to put this last layer on my top of my crescent moons just to make sure I've got something a little easier to turn with and make sure everything's still turning nicely. This just gives me a little bit more stability. Make sure everything is still turning well. And now I've got something to hold on to turn it, and that all looks great. So I think we're about ready to finish putting it together. The last gear that goes on the front is purely decorative, but we like it. I think you're going to like it. It gives you a chance to see through it. So I can now take this screw that I've been using to align things. And we made this hole a little small too, but you notice that you can go through it from the back, so we're just going to have to screw this front layer in. All the way. I cannot wait to see how you all have decorated your pieces. I'm counting on you sending us pictures and tagging Steamy Tech if you paste things on Facebook, because we really want to see what you did with this pendant. I'm really excited about being able to do this for you. We've been looking for a way to build a wearable Geneva, and it seemed like this was the time to do it. So now that I've done that, I put a layer of glue on my circle piece of wood here. I'm going to force that all the way through, hold it together really nice and tight so that that stays glued together. And I can spin this all the way around still, and I'm in really good shape. One of the nice things about when we make it so you have to thread the screws in, is that means you don't actually have to put the nuts on the back. But we know you're going to want to make everything look pretty and consistent, so I'm going to put little drops of glue on my screws sticking out the back. And I'm going to just tighten those down nicely. You probably should do them one at a time. Don't tighten them too much on the outside ones. This inside one can go as tight as you want. If you are skilled enough to actually put the nut on the screw. Because we're screwing the whole thing together. Making sure that all stays nice and solid. We've got our back screws, nuts on the screws. Everything is perfectly assembled. And our last step is to get the pendant ready. If you want to use our chain, that's great. And if you haven't used a ball chain, let me show you couple of little tricks about ball chains. The neat thing about these ball chains is the way they're going to go together is you're just going to go slide in through that hole and click. So, if you are a small person, you can actually make it as short as you want to just by cutting this metal chain anywhere along the way. The way I'm going to thread this in is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thread it from the back to the front. Actually, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to do it from the front to the back on this side. I'm going to do it from the back to the front on the other side. And pull it tight. That means my chain is just across the back. It's not going to be a problem on the front to get in the way of the gears. That's the one thing you want to be careful of with this chain. And now you have a lovely pendant, and you can close it up. And seal your ball chain, and you're good to go. Now, let me give you one free hint. If you're a steampunk person and you want a costume piece and you really don't want a pendant, or you just want to wear this differently, you could take the chain off. You could put a couple of pinbacks on it, turn it upside down, and then you could even dangle things from these little hooks if you wanted to build a cute little badge for yourself, so, or a hat pin or something else. So you got a couple of options. We think it's a great pendant. I've been wearing mine around and people just seem to really love it. So have fun.